because I'll probably be asking for those. So what was interesting though is I said, here's the thing, I said, what the public doesn't understand, and we just had this great dialogue. He said, I can't believe I'm doing this on my day off, but this is fun to talk to. We were emailing up until late last night. I said, the value of the realtor is so critical in this market. And I told them, I said, number one, what you guys don't know or realize is how many listings are sold via social media. And how many listings are sold because the realtor has a listing coming, and they pick up the phone and they call their 5 favorite realtors that they love to do deals with and say, do you have somebody? Let's work together, me and you. And I said, that's a value proposition, those relationships that the realtors have built in the community. So the second thing that the value the realtor does is I said, what I'm seeing in my office is I know for a fact many of you are scouring expireds and canceleds from 2 and 3 years ago looking for inventory. Because we taught you to do it, and I know that you're doing it. And I said, you know, the person that has not procured excellent representation does not have an advocate for them that has access to the proprietary data and the smarts to start going through and finding property. And he said, this is great, this is great. So I'm really trying to steer him, although he doesn't know it, into doing an article on why realtor representation is great. I would love to see a public interest story about the value of the realtor, not, you know, 2 horns for the devil. So really interesting conversation to have with them, and I said, and he's very open. The other thing he asked me for was, and I said, this is no problem. I said, this is again the value of Keller Williams. I can reach out in about 5 phone calls and get this data for you. He wants to know how our inventory compares to other markets in the country. And I said, well, do you want Northwest Region? Do you want the whole country? What do you want? I got it. What do you want to know? I said, I can tell you right now on email what people tell me anecdotally. But if you tell me what you're looking for, I will get you data, because obviously fact checking becomes important in journalism. So depends on what site you're on.
TMZ.
So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Pretty interesting, and I tell you, for all the times, I mean, what that does, and I love the fact, and I put it on my Facebook, there was not one realtor quote in the article. There wasn't a Neil Fried or a Neil Thomas. There wasn't, you know, realtor board, and I loved that because it was not us saying this is what's happening. It was the buyers talking about it. It was the industry, the developers, and that was really cool because it kind of was like third-party validation of what we do. So, did anybody get any interesting response? I know a lot of you guys shared that and used it for your database.
Yeah, people didn't realize that I talked to how difficult it is for a developer to build in acreage and why people want to do it. They just seem to think that, oh,
they're just not building.
Yeah. So that was a big insight for people. Yeah. And that the municipality actually makes it challenging for developers to build.
Very challenging. Absolutely.
I got a buy-in the list.
Did you really? Shut your mouth.
I shared it as soon as you posted it.
No, I saw you
and then my friend goes, can you meet me on Wednesday night?
I was like, oh,
yeah, I did.
That's awesome. That's great.
I actually had a
I get to high five. Love it. I'm sorry, Jen.
Oh, no, it's okay. I actually had a couple of buyers apologize, which was pretty funny, because they were like, I thought you were kind of like saying we needed to move and we needed to move just because you wanted to sell a house. And I guess you were really telling us the truth, which was, I mean, it was cool. It also made me like, how do I need to fix that in my life? Yeah.
We're going to take back the liar, liar, pants on fire, truly
Right.
you. Okay, good.
Well, but I mean, and I think it is funny because I've heard this a lot now, as I'm back in buyer's consults after my hiatus. It's funny because other agents, just to get the business, will just be like, well, yeah, I'm going to find you the deals, I'm going to find you this, I'm going to find. There's very few realtors who will be like, hey, how comfortable are you with multiple offer situation? Because this is what the market is, you know. So I think, you know, being at Keller, the only time I ever hear that, or I hear somebody saying, yeah, I saw this before, is if I'm competing with another Keller agent, which is great. I think we're speaking the truth to them, and I think that just helps validate it.
Well, at the end of the day, it is absolutely our fiduciary responsibility, right? Like, we have a job to educate our clients as to what's going on the market. We're doing a disservice to them if we're not presenting them with the facts. I mean, that's something that I would put into my listing presentation, my buyer's consultation. I'd run a copy of that article and I'd have it in there. The other thing, and I'm actually going to send this to him today, and I'm going to do a Facebook post on it. If any of you guys want to share it, you should feel free to. How many of you, many of you were at Family Reunion, how many of you guys saw the affordability slide from the vision speech? So I don't know about you guys that read the article, but one of the themes that I heard, did anybody read the comments below? Okay, now let me just tell you from personal experience, because sometimes I get a little squirrely on the computer. If you ever want to feel like you walked into a scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, just read the comments below any given article that's on the paper, right? It's like Nurse Ratched takes over, and you've got all these crazy people that are living in their mother's basement, and they're 47 years old, and all they're doing is commenting on like crazy stuff, right? It is insane. It is really, really crazy. But this was actually an interesting debate. There was about 87 comments after this article. A lot of discussion about, and Tyson Kroon, I put it in my post, Tyson actually jumped in, made some very, very insightful points about adding a lane of traffic to the Glen that would increase, decrease bottlenecking. There's a lot of discussion about the bridge. There's a lot of discussion about zoning, planning, development. Tons of really interesting, but there's a theme that ran through it, which, you know, there's your couple crazy people, like the one guy who said, well, those people shouldn't be buying a bigger house anyway. They have too much stuff. You know, there's oh, I'm telling you, it's crazy. Like, you go read the stuff and you've slipped into a parallel universe. But
Those people vote.
so true. Often and frequently. Multiple times. Because all of their personalities show up to vote. Sybil, Beth, and Bob, all three of them. But what they said was there was this discussion about affordability and the high price of homes, and totally flawed perception about affordability based on what we learned in, just because, you know, the price is higher doesn't mean it is less or more affordable. And that slide was so powerful, and so I'm going to actually do something with that, and I'm going to send it to the reporter as well. Just say, look, let's have a realistic talk about the value of the dollar. Nate?
You know, affordability too, I mean, that slide didn't include was inflation. I mean, if you count inflation in there, I mean, the price of what you pay monthly now compared to what it was 20 years ago.
I thought they did factor that. I thought he did calculate inflation.
I was in there. I know last year.
He did.
I missed it this year. I know last year.
Yeah, he actually, I'm almost, don't quote me on this, even though I'm going to say it in a room of 30 people. I'm almost positive that it was, you have it in your
I have it in my
buyer's
buyer's
packet.
household.
Yeah, and so, and that's another thing. I mean, I would take that slide, just a suggestion. I would take that slide and I would absolutely include it in your buyer's consultation, because it's a very easily read, it's not a really, the way that Gary presented that is not like in economic professor terms. It's very, to the layperson, it makes sense, right? You know, I can't remember the difference between micro and macroeconomics. I always have to double check which one is which. So I'm going to assume that the consumer doesn't need to be like completely brain spun when you start going into economics. But that slide, it's like apples to apples. It just makes a lot of sense. Which is an incredible tool for you to have to combat what I saw in that theme, given the nature of posters. Well, it's just so expensive. Okay, well, yeah, it is, and let's look at the price of gas, you know, all those things. So, any other comments on that? I mean, what a gift. I saw that article, I was so happy.
I used to use that slide last year all the time, from last year.
Yeah, did you?
And when people say, gosh, you know, you rent right now, it's like, oh, gosh, how do you afford to do that, you know, in this market? And I mean, it's just a...
I agree.
I've actually read, there's been a lot of articles out lately from a lot of different real estate news sources that are saying that in, I think it was like the top 100 or 250 areas in the country, it is cheaper to buy than to rent, even if interest rates went up to 10%. Because the
That
rents
would
are
not
so
surprise
high.
me. Well, I mean, look in Anchorage, remember it talked in the article about rents, right? Does anyone remember what the
Yes, it
vacancy
did.
rate is at?
3%.
3%. Do you realize how tight that is?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, you are looking at, when you do really look at rents and you start comparing, what are you paying for a 2-bedroom apartment? And they dove into that pretty healthily, I thought, and gave some good sort of side-by-side stuff. It's, guys, this kind of stuff, like, this is where you become the market expert, right? This is where you can sit down with your client. I mean, Michael, you just said that you had people, Jen and Michael both, who went, huh, I didn't know. I can't remember whose, because there were several people that shared the article. Somebody's posting, I saw a couple of comments where it said, I had no idea. I didn't realize. I didn't understand that. Your job is to be the expert on the market. And the more you can come compiled with stuff like this, the better. So we'll certainly be reaching out, and I just took it upon myself to inject Keller Williams into the discussion. I may have mentioned that we had 25.6% of the market share in that email. 12 times. It's only twice. I might have said that. Well, I did, and I said, and here's why I'm telling you this. I said, I'm saying this to you because we have the market share. We understand what's going on in the market. Yeah, our realtors get it. How many, Jen, what did you text me? Was it this morning or last night? I don't remember.
It was one of those, it all blurs together. Yeah, I had three offers on my property that had been on the market 2 days in the valley, and every single one of them was Keller Williams agent.
Is anybody else experiencing this?
It depends if it has a foundation or not.
You don't like those. You can't have your grow operation.
That's right.
It all evens out. No operation, lack of foundation, it's a wash. The appraiser gives it value. There's an adjustment we make. What was the statistic? And Lauren, you've told me 5 times and I can't remember it. She's going, which one is she gonna ask me for it? Do I know it? When we did the research just on the ALC production and, you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
This is
There
fascinating.
were, and I'm going to be off by 1 or 2, of the 11 ALC members, their production from January to about February 25th, we're talking about closed transactions, there was 91 closed transactions, and of those 91, 30 or 32, I can't remember which number, 30 or 32 of them were either double-sided by that agent or the other side was a KW agent.
That's market share. For those of you that are newer, you're going, that's great. Trust me, that's huge. That is massive market share. That means you guys are out there, getting the deals put together.
I think other agents at other companies are noticing that too. I had a call on a house I showed a couple of days ago from an old agent here in town. He says, so Keller Williams is doing pretty good, aren't they? My last 3 transactions have been with Keller Williams agents. So.
Yeah, they know something's up. I've had
Yeah.
the same kind of conversation.
Sorry.
No, please. Shayna and Dave Van are on spring break gallivanting around the country, so it's the Jen and Allison show today. This is what you get.
I mean, what I hear about that is, what we've been discussing from the very beginning of the year, our theme of creating raving fans, really raising that bar of customer service. Talk about a huge opportunity for us to Kellerize the industry.
Yeah, whether they come to Keller or not,
Right,
let's
they're
just take
gonna
that
get
off the table.
They're going to get it one way or the other, and so what a huge opportunity to do at least what I know is a vision that Jennifer and I share with Matt and with Sheena and Evan, is raising that bar. And in raising that bar, making those transactions so much easier, let's face it, life easier for Butch, in doing that, making people want to do transactions with Keller Williams, huge benefit to our clients, huge benefit to you and this company when people say there is something different about that place. I'm open to suggestion of how I can increase my business in the same way that, holy cow, you guys, which I know she's going to talk about this, are increasing your business and your market share. So I think just a tremendous opportunity for everyone right now.
Yeah, it's amazing too. You go back 7 years ago, and when Bruce and Artie come up here, and you have some older
Look,
agents.
there's his email address.
It's just here.
You have some older agents. They're saying, what's a what's a paint company selling real estate for? Keller Williams.
I forgot that one, you're right.
And you had Bruce Hardy saying, you know, I remember just him talking about it, saying, you know, Keller Williams will take over this town, and they'll do it in the span of 4 or 5 years. And it's amazing to see the growth there and where it's gone. And it's funny because as Jennifer remembers, there's a lot of naysayers that say that it will never happen. It's a changing market, and I think that changing market actually aided.
Gift.
Yes.
It is a gift.
It's amazing to see the growth there.
Well, because when the market changes, what is the most valuable resource you can receive from your brokerage? Education and training, right? And the ability to see, like I mean, I don't know how many of you remember, but it was the spring of last year that I stood here and said, I am going to push listings because you have to drive the listings to survive and control and gain market share where the market is going. We talked about Tim McGraw, we talked about the ticket scalper, the value of being the one who holds the market share. You know, Steve shared a story with me this week on Friday, and now it's been 3 days and I can't remember the exact story. You had a listing come on the market and have multiple offers. And one offer was from, if this does not tell you, if this does not reinforce what I've been saying since January 1, what Evan's been saying, what Shane's been saying, what Allison just said, how important it is for you to build solid, great relationships across the aisle, to use a political term, bipartisan. You had an offer, a listing, did it actually go on the market or was it before it hit the market?
No, it was on the market for a day.
It was on the market, you had 2 offers, correct?
Sure.
One from a realtor that historically is very difficult to do a transaction with, and the other, was it a KW agent or was it? It was a KW agent. It was Stalka.
Yeah.
That's right, duh, it was Jen.
I
So,
don't think Jen's.
tell me how that conversation, tell me how that conversation went with your seller. Because it's seller's
Be
choice.
kind.
Yeah. No, and it wasn't because Jen's KW works with our team or anything like that. It was because the other agent, one, we had just submitted an offer, one of the buyer's agents on our team had just submitted an offer, and we're confident that he didn't show it. And I don't know that we've seen the signed rejection yet, but he was just non-responsive and difficult, and we don't think he really showcased the offer, so we'll see about that. We've got to get the signed rejection. But the very next day, he submitted an offer on our listing, and we gave it, you know, I let him know it would be presented, it was placed in my hand, he emailed Caitlin 10 times and said, print this out, put it in his hand, yada, yada, yada. It was blowing up all of our phones, you know, when we're out in the afternoon on appointments. It was just, you could just tell, it's not somebody you want to do business with. So even if I didn't have a history with Jen, that guy wasn't going to get my nod as far as advocating to my client to accept the offer, because I just tell he's going to be a nightmare.
If this is the problem we're having trying to get the offer accepted, what are the next 45 days going to look like?
Right, it was just obnoxious.
So you gave it to the seller, said, here's the deal, here's what I know about the relationships. What do you want to do? And I think they were pretty much, from what you told me, they said, there, we're going that
And
direction.
it was not necessarily the best offer.
Hey now.
You know.
It was a beautiful offer.
How many had you written for that client?
Let the trash talk into you.
Are you still accepting offers?
And it does make a difference.
They have,
I had an offer come in on a house, and it was Terry Pizza that wrote it. I've known Terry for years. She's been in the business, you know, for longer than I have. And, you know, it's like I could tell my client, this is an agent who's been around forever, she knows what she's doing, and it's nice to be able to say that versus having to say, oh, this agent, you know, there's the challenges, and, well, they always do a walkthrough an hour before closing, and what the buyer or the seller and the agent do.
Yeah, give you the list. Well, and here's the thing, right? Here's the issue. When we talk to you about building great relationships, particularly when you're facing significant challenges working through a transaction, we're not just making this up. There is an absolute quantifiable, tangible value to those relationships. Jen's client got their offer accepted because of who their realtor was, or her existed, is. I've abandoned grammar. I told you, it's my key for 2014. Grammar and spelling, out the window. But because of who she was, she got the offer accepted, and that just happens to be a story that I knew of, and it happened to be people that we knew. It happens all the time. That is, and you have got to communicate that to your clients. And in the meantime, you also have to show up and do the work and build the relationships with the agent so that when I do get a listing, and it's a fantastic property, you want to be one of the ones I'm calling and saying, hey, Phyllis, guess what? It's worth sits the market. You got anybody? You do? Great, I'll get you in early, right? Cream.
I'm coming up against several, and I started writing it myself lately just to get in multiple offers, is that acceleration clause. And I don't know if any of the newer agents have any education on those.
We covered it in team meeting.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some
Extensively.
great verbiage out there. Chris from Portland brought up some, and we kind of did that, but we're getting them. We're getting on, in multiple offers, we're grabbing them with that acceleration clause.
The escalation clause has always been advantageous, and I'll tell you, do you mind if I share your story?
Go ahead.
Phyllis got an offer accepted. So let me ask you this, and let's just get it, see if you can put this in your tool belt and pull it out. When you're writing an offer for a buyer, under what scenario do you completely have zero control? And are you on the short end of the stick in a multiple offer situation? When the other agent is writing an offer as well.
Yeah.
Why?
They're gonna cut their commissions.
Correct. Can you compete with that? Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Net to seller. Net to seller. Because at the end of the day, they can cut, and Phyllis, I was real proud of her. She has been in real estate for a long time, stepped away when his title came back, went to Bush, said, I know how to write an escalation clause, but the other agent is writing the other offer, so they work together along with the title company that ran a HUD, projected HUD to show proceeds to seller, to illustrate that no matter what the agent said, even if that agent said, I'll work for free, this offer is based on net to seller. Does everybody understand what that means? We will beat any other verifiable offer by X amount of dollars based on the proceeds to the seller. So that eliminates the entire commission discussion. I'm telling you right now, not everybody knows that. Everybody knows how to write an escalation clause. Not everybody has figured out the net to seller. And that also eliminates the things that, they don't even have to be the other agent. It doesn't even have to be the listing agent writing an offer. Another agent can come in and say, I'll work for 0.5% just to get this done. Go ahead.
That's where it's important to present the offer face to face, though, because a lot of listing agents don't explain it correctly.
And you did.
Yeah, I did. I forced it. And, the thing about the multiple offer and asking Butch with that, having that clause, and I also talked to an attorney, I did like everything in line with that. But what was so nice and gratifying afterwards, because turning in, as you very well know, there's some agents that are their areas and you don't sell their area. And it's like, who are you?
Not turn again.
But it's fun that we've been talked a lot about over at the Rest to Go. But that area, after I was done, it was so nice. Valerie was so professional after I got it done, and she said, "Very nice, Phyllis. Well done."
Yeah.
So having that
Creating
respect from
yeah.
her, and Nancy Bird Pollock was huge.
Yeah,
Because
you
she
zoomed
know I'm
into
back.
yeah, exactly. So, you guys, this is what I want you to understand. The market is, and I wanted today to just be sort of a conversation that spun off of that article, because your value is in your knowledge. And as the market keeps turning, and we are truly, as your leadership team, we are doing our best to train you ahead of that, like really trying to be 3 months ahead, so you don't walk up one day and go, this is the market I'm in? Oh my gosh, now what, And I feel, do you guys feel prepared? How do you feel in the field? What are you feeling? Do you feel like you know what you're doing? Do you feel like you're spinning circles?
A little both.
Well, and it's busy. There's the busy part is one thing, but not knowing what you're doing is another thing, right? The other thing I want to remind you of is don't, and again, this is more of an anecdotal team meeting, but don't forget about things like, remember last week we talked about, I tell you what, guys, drag people to team meeting. I was in the workroom last week, And I was having a conversation with, who was I talking about? And he was sharing with me all the challenges he was having. How many of you were here in the team meeting last week? He was sharing with me all the challenges he was having dealing with this for sale by owner on the other side. He's like, I just don't know what to do. I mean, I'm frustrated with this. And I said, well, that's interesting. Where were you Tuesday? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, we spent an hour on this. This was the exact topic of the team meeting. He goes, well, I didn't know. I said, well, just show up. Because we really are trying to take this from just a rah-rah team meeting. No, he's not.
Apparently he does need an engraved invitation.
And trying to get this into stuff you walk away and literally put into your business. But I want to go back to FSBOs for a second because you listed a FSBO this week, right?
I did.
Yep, I mean, door knocking, farming, your neighborhood. I'm hearing a lot of people say, well, they don't work. And I get that it's a lot harder to list the FSBOs now because they don't need us as much. And yet,
Yeah, they do.
I love it. They do. They do, absolutely. So good job. And that's a new agent that just said, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to go do it. And oh, look, it worked. Go figure. Okay, any other comments? Any other questions on the market today? What's going on? So we have a new flyer for you to use. This is February 2014. So you've got a couple of different statistics. Again, guys, this is fantastic for you to use in your listing presentations. How many of you are having to compete for listings? Yeah. This is a great, I mean, we all know that the brand Keller Williams, we make no bones about it. Our brand doesn't do anything for selling your property. But our statistics can help you win the listing appointment. So use this for what you can, right? So here's what you've got. The first category is producing agents. Keller Williams Alaska is up 9.38%. The MLS is up 1.16%. How is that statistic helpful for you in a listing presentation? Well, Mr. Seller, I have access to KWLS and we have an internal MLS. Before your property goes to the market, I'm going to put it on there. Our agents are outperforming and outproducing the other agents. We have 9.38% more production than producing agents than any other company, and we have 302. My job is to market the property to realtors who have the client base. What agent base do you want marketed to? Does that make sense? Closed sales volume. We're up 16.08%. The MLS is down 0.65% for the month of February. How is that a value to your listing presentations? It had to be me. How is that a value for you? I'm going to give you the stats. You got to know how to use them. So let's practice this. Well, I'm performing in the market, Mr. Seller. We're up. The MLS is down. Do you want to list with the other company or do you want to list with ours? I mean, for me, that's a no-brainer if I see that number and I'm a seller. Listings taken. KW up 13.29%. The MLS down 1.8%. Is that a valuable statistic when you're competing for listings? Total volume. KW is up 3.94%. The MLS is down 0.65%. Guys, these are numbers in a crappy month. February historically is just a bad month. It just is. It doesn't matter how great the market is. February will always be the worst of the 12 months. It's short, thank God. We just get through it. Move on to March when all gets better and the days get longer. But this is a great tool for you. But guys, the language of business is numbers. So you got to know how to use them. I mean, we have loaded you up with, you've got the affordability flyer, you've got the TMO, you've got this, you've got, I don't know what else I can give you. I'm sure we'll come up with something, but use it.
It's really interesting going back with TMOs, especially for people who weren't able to sell before, to show them the TMO from 3 years ago at this time versus the TMO from today.
Well, if you want a copy of every TMO, I think that has ever been written, go see Liz Steele, Liz Hooknew.
Yes.
She has a little notebook.
She has them all.
And she was not little anymore, I guess. She has all of them. So,
I have most of them in Dropbox for the last 4 years.
So speaking of agents and transactions that you build and relationships that you build, we have a new tool for you. And since you guys showed up at 11 o'clock on Tuesday for the team meeting, you're going to be the only ones to hear about it first.